You hear the name Bram Stoker, and what's the first thing that pops into your head? It's almost always a pale, sharp-dressed figure with these piercing eyes and, a serious thirst for blood. Stoker is, of course, the mastermind who gave us Dracula, one of the most legendary monsters in, well, all of fiction.
But here's a thought. What if that one immortal, unforgettable creation was just the first chapter in a much bigger, much darker collection of stories? What if the guy who perfected the vampire had a whole library of other nightmares he was dying to share? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
Now, before we explore all those hidden gems, we've got to start with the cornerstone of his legacy. I mean, you have to. His reputation as an absolute master of Gothic horror was pretty much sealed forever back in 1897 with the release of this one single novel.
The absolute genius of Dracula wasn't just the monster himself. It was the way Stoker told the story. He built this whole narrative through letters, through diary entries, and even newspaper clippings. Can you imagine reading that at the time? It gave it this shocking, almost true story sense of realism. He dug into these massive themes, the danger and allure of seduction, the huge clash between modern science and ancient superstition. And he did it all with characters like Jonathan Harker and the brilliant Professor Van Helsing that you just can't forget.
And the impact? Oh, it was absolutely monumental. The book didn't just tell a great story, it basically invented a genre. You can find the DNA of nearly every single vampire tale that's come out since then right back in Stoker's creepy, suspense-filled masterpiece. It was so successful, in fact, that it kind of cast this huge shadow over everything else he ever wrote.
So, with that legend firmly in place, it's time to turn the page. Let's step out of that shadow and start exploring the forgotten library of his other works. A whole universe of horror, adventure, and mystery just waiting to be rediscovered.
First stop, we're off to Egypt with The Jewel of Seven Stars. And forget vampires, this terror is dug up straight from an ancient tomb. You've got an archaeologist who gets tangled up in the supernatural resurrection of an ancient queen, Queen Terra. It's this fantastic, chilling mix of science, the occult, and that terrifying idea that, maybe some things are just better left buried.
Then, a few years later in 1909, Stoker takes us back to the Balkans for The Lady of the Shroud. This one's totally different. It feels much more like a Gothic romance mashed up with a high-stakes adventure. The story follows an American who inherits this remote castle and then finds out about a local legend, a woman who literally rises from her burial shroud at night. It's so mysterious, so atmospheric, and just completely captivating.
And right when you think you've got him pegged, he writes The Lair of the White Worm. I mean, this book is just pure, bizarre folk horror. It's set in the English countryside, and it's all about an ancient, monstrous, serpent-like creature that can disguise itself as a beautiful, seductive woman. It is a weird, wild, and frankly terrifying dive into mythology and twisted desire.
But here's the kicker. Stoker didn't only write horror. In a complete 180, he heads out into the American wilderness with The Shoulder of Shasta. This is not a Gothic tale at all. It's an adventure and romance novel that explores mysticism and the raw power of nature. It just goes to show a completely different side of his talent.
I mean, just think about the incredible range of fears he tapped into. The Jewel of Seven Stars plays on our deep-seated fear of supernatural resurrection, of the dead not staying dead. The Lady of the Shroud is all about the fear of the unknown, of that legend you just can't quite explain. And The Lair of the White Worm, that unleashes the primal horror of monstrous folklore. We're talking 3 completely different kinds of nightmares, all coming from the exact same mind.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, it means that if we only focus on Dracula, we're really missing the bigger picture. Bram Stoker wasn't just the father of one monster. He was a prolific architect of darkness in all of its many, many forms.
See, Stoker was an absolute master of Gothic fiction. And what is that really? It's that special genre that lives right in that chaotic space where horror, death, and romance all crash into each other. His entire collection of works, not just Dracula, was constantly pushing the boundaries of what that could be, exploring our deepest anxieties about life, death, and all the supernatural stuff that lurks in between.
I mean, just look at the sheer range here. He went from the classic Gothic horror of Dracula to a supernatural mystery in ancient Egypt. From an adventure romance in the Balkans to political intrigue in ancient Rome with another book, The Eternal City, all the way to that bizarre folk horror in the English countryside. Bram Stoker was no one-trick pony. The man was a true literary chameleon. It really seems like Count Dracula, for all his immortality, has been casting a shadow long enough to hide a whole treasure trove of other, thrilling, terrifying stories. So I guess there's really only one question left to ask. Which of these forgotten worlds are you going to dare to enter first?